So, Josh, there's a lot of buzz around Baby Yoda, or more officially, the child, lately. And this is kind of a sign of the times as a new character rises in the Star Wars universe.
Right. And in case you don't know what we're talking about, and I'm pretty sure you probably do because I think it's like everywhere, even if you don't have it. But so Disney launched their new streaming service, kind of a competition to all the other streaming services out there, Disney Plus, and this is their first original TV series for Star Wars universe. And it has a character that everybody is wondering about. They call it Baby. People are calling it Baby Yoda, but of course that's not supposedly the name.
Right. But it's the closest proxy because George Lucas purposely kind of shrouded it in the mists of mysteriousness and things so that people didn't ask questions about it. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the Zeitgeist of Baby Yoda. So we're going to launch into the loop and discuss that very thing today on Curiosity Continuum.
Hey everybody, this is Josh.
And this is Brian.
Thank you for joining us today on Curiosity Continuum. For those of you tuning in for the first time, Curiosity Continuum is a podcast and movement started by two lifelong friends who want to spark your curiosity, help you integrate information, and enhance your everyday contextual awareness in a constantly changing world. We're going to do this by sharing conversations with you that explore, examine, and reframe common practical topics.
Yeah, and if you want to receive updates when new content's available, please be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you can receive notifications when there's something new to listen to. We appreciate you, our listeners, for engaging with us and sharing your own curiosities with your friends and with us as we explore topics together.
As always, you guys can find us on curiositycontinuum.com, and on there you'll find all of our links to our social accounts, and you'll also be able to find out where to listen to our show if you're not already listening to it, which you are. But, I mean, we're on like every podcast service pretty much out there.
Thanks for your feedback in advance, and let's go ahead and dive into the conversation. So today, we're calling it the Zeitgeist of Baby Yoda. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the term zeitgeist, let me just give a quick Google definition here. It says zeitgeist is the defining spirit and mood of a particular period of history, as shown by the ideas and beliefs of the time. The reason why we want to kind of focus on this is Star Wars has been around for a couple of generations now, it feels like.
Yeah, 40 2 years.
Yeah.
40, yeah, this will be the
43.
77, yep.
We can do math, I promise.
Yeah, I know. It's just hard, you know. The simple math is what eludes me.
Is it coincidence that, it was 42 years, the answer to life, universe, and everything, when the last Star Wars movie came out in the official trilogy line?
Maybe. We might be getting a little deep there.
We're a little nerdy there. I'm sorry. If not, you can reference Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and you'll understand the reference 42. Anyway, we wanted to talk about this because it's blown up all over the internet. It has. People are really hungry for the next thing. And people, I think, really lose perspective on how much it actually takes to do a production TV show.
Right.
To say, like, why can't we watch it right now? It's like, because that's not how television works. There's a lot of prep that goes into it. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe we should give a little bit of history on just like the Yoda character in general.
Sounds great. You had a great quote from George Lucas about Yoda as a character. If we can maybe say that first, then we'll kind of explain the character a little more.
Sure. So like Yoda, his quote was basically in response to somebody was asking him about Yoda, like who is he, where does he come from, all that stuff. And he goes, Yoda is just there. He comes and he goes. You know, don't dig into, you know, his past or really his future or even his people. But everybody knows, you know, there's got to be more of them, right?
Right. Or he's the last one. Yoda was kind of this mysterious character that appeared in Empire Strikes Back. And I think it was really surprising about how much he really kind of came into the front of it. Now, the original Yoda character, and as for all of them, has been voiced by Frank Oz, you know, masterful performer in many rights of his own.
Yep.
And, made by Jim Henson's Creature Shop. This was an analog puppet, but it also had a lot of technology in it. But there were things that Yoda did on screen that they really had to plan. Like there was nothing that happened in a scene with Yoda, who's this green being with large ears, if you don't know who Yoda is. And he's like this ancient Jedi master, like 900 years old, like Methuselah, but like not Methuselah. He's like a little green guy, but about as old. And he shares like he's kind of a little off and a little weird, but he has a lot of wisdom that he shares with Luke Skywalker on his journey to fight Darth Vader. Yoda had all these specific challenges, especially the way they filmed him, because it was like set in a swamp. And I remember if you watch any of like the special edition features or things like that, you can hear candid interviews from people like how problematic it was to make Yoda come to life.
Right. Because, I mean, he would only be able to move 2 to 3 feet, basically whatever Frank Oz could stretch his arms to be able to move him, and then the rest of his body kind of contorting on screen. So really, when you think about it, it was a masterful job, not only to voice at the same time, but then, work the puppet.
There's a lot of physical constraints, and you get the idea that Yoda is old, but yet he has all this power. And that's credit to the performance that he did to be able to make that happen, because he really acted it out. Like there wasn't like all this range and CGI at the time that make him just do flips or whatever like that. They really had to be choosy about how they presented him.
Right. Absolutely.
So
that's kind of, no, go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, so that kind of sets up who Yoda is to Luke. And that's Empire Strikes Back. He comes in, he's introduced as like this grandfather figure of sorts of the Jedi, the Jedis.
Right. So he's like, everybody looks up to him. He's kind of mysterious, but he's also powerful. So everybody's like, okay, we know this guy knows his stuff. So let's fast forward a little bit. So now that character is a totally different character than what this new one is. But the way that it's introduced is very similar. It's very mysterious. You don't really know, you don't know the name of this character. He's very young compared to Yoda, who was 900 years old. When we met him, so when we met him, he was like 895,
Something like that.
Yeah. So
Just
this guy,
thing.
and supposedly the baby Yoda, or the child, we'll call him, is 50 years old. But an equivalent, like if you hack off a 0, it's kind of like equivalent of a person. So it's like 5-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Like a
Doesn't
Ford
say
of,
much.
Yeah. Just laughs, kind of.
Yeah. Very powerful still in its own right for what it is.
Very inquisical, kind of like very childlike in the way it's very curious.
Yes. So let's ask the question: would Baby Yoda have been as effective now, or the child, had we known all there is to know about Yoda? If you recall back to what's considered Star Wars canon, there's only 2 Yoda-like beings. It was Yaddle or Yaddle, however you want to pronounce it, and there was Yoda. And those are the only 2 until the child appeared. Do you think that there would have been as much interest in it had it just been like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of Yoda-like beings running around the universe, and here it is?
Right. No, I don't believe so. And I also want to like credit George Lucas for that a little bit, even though I don't think that was his intent. His intent, I really believe, was just to like leave it alone and not to have anything to do with it. But him doing that, I think, made that even more. I don't even know how to really say it, but like more, like people wanted more. They were more hungry for it.
I think if they would have revealed everything, it would have lost the mystery with it.
Right.
But here's an interesting thing. So George Lucas, in his worldview, was really into Eastern religions and things. At that particular time in space and time, there was really like, here's the wise old yogi or something like that.
Right.
That's kind of giving out wisdom to people who would listen, disciples of sorts. That character now, even though we consider it, we understand that picture, that's really not the voices of people that the generation right now is listening to as much.
No.
They're listening to somebody who's very different, and we kind of think it's embodied within Baby Yoda.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the way I think it really is a sign of our times today, and I think that's part of the reason it's taken off so much. I mean, what do you think, Brian?
There's a scarcity to understanding what Baby Yoda is in the first place.
Right.
And I do think it was a master merchandising move by Disney to not do it and not reveal it, because it made it a surprise. Everything now, especially with
with the
The internet.
internet, with everything we know, supposedly. This was a surprise, even to every. I mean, I have to give everybody credit too on that. Whoever kept that secret, which was everybody,
Everybody.
that was some hardcore NDA work and some lawyers work because they were probably like, "We will take your house and your kidneys if you say something." You
Yeah,
know?
and your children's kidneys and your parents' kidneys
Yeah,
and
and like
everything
six
else.
generations from now, you know,
Yes,
because
you owe us kidneys.
because no one said anything, and that's very unusual. And I think that's part of. I think also maybe the people that were working closely realized this was something special, something that people were going to latch onto, and they wanted us to be surprised.
And I think it provides some line of continuity into the new series because Mandalorian for a series is really marking where Star Wars is leaving the mainline story that happened through the movies, which is now all 9 movies. And now you're branching off. But if you do that, it's kind of like, well, I'm so familiar with this story. Like, where do I feel familiar on something? And Baby Yoda's brand new as far as a character or the child, but there's so much excitement about it. Go, oh my gosh, like here's somebody that I know and I'm familiar with. So even though like we're venturing off into the new, it still is harkening back to like this is the
Right.
foundation that we're building the story on.
And it's kind of what has happened with a lot of the new Star Wars movies. I believe is that they've pulled from the old to kind of give us something new, yet it's familiar. So we're all kind of just we're on this journey because you don't really know what's going to happen to the character, and
Yep.
it is fun. It makes it exciting again.
Because it's not just like immediate release. One thing I actually loved, this might show my own age and preferences, but I actually liked that they released something new every week for that show
Right.
because it was like television, and then it kind of paced out the content consumption and it created buzz around it when it happened. A lot of times now, like Netflix created the animal of like binge watching everything, and it created a consumption pattern where people like just expect everything to drop.
So this is an interesting question on this. Do you think that this would have been as effective if they would have released all the episodes for everybody to binge?
I don't think so.
No,
And the
I don't
reason
think I don't believe so either. No.
there was in the edit room, especially with television, there's really a lot of power in the editing pause that happens at the end of an episode where they cliffhanger it, and they're maybe in the next 5 to 10 minutes of the next episode you're kind of falling back into where you left off and you kind of have the forward motion.
Right.
Those same things were used in like Netflix, like Stranger Things or something like that, where it's all dropped, where you want to consume the next episode, and it's like it does what it's supposed to do because people would just binge watch the whole thing, and they would just be pouring out their love on social media and everything else that it was so great. And Mandalorian did the exact same thing, except what they did is they made people wait, and in an instantaneous culture where you can see whatever you want to see and get whatever you want to get and order it
Yep.
on Amazon and it's delivered same day, they made you wait. And I think it reinforced kind of just the old adage, like, it's worth waiting for. It really was. It didn't disappoint people. People were really excited about it. Disney's going to make a crap ton of money on
Right.
merchandising the fire out of it. But there's so much like cultural jujubes flying around this thing right now. They really did a good thing with it.
Yeah, I totally am in agreement with you. The way that they release it, the way that it was done, the way the story is progressing. I also do love that this is part of a TV series and not necessarily just a movie, because we are going to get this slow burn of character development. We're going to be able to see this over several. I don't want to get too spoilery for people that haven't really watched it, but it's going to be several seasons, I would assume, of this type of development, slow development. It might be some fast stuff in there, but also some slower paced stuff.
Yeah, I really do believe if you've watched some of the work of J.J. Abrams and then Jon Favreau, who did The Mandalorian and was also largely involved with Marvel and everything, they have really picked strong choices to help kind of move something that's so embedded in the culture and be able to graciously and responsibly and with a lot of outside perspective land the plane in a good spot, but also set up the runway for other things to happen. It was
And
a
they also
really
do a
masterful
good
job.
they're also doing a good job of rebuilding the plane in midair, like if there's a problem. So I think that Star Wars has suffered from this more than I would say the Marvel universe since Disney launched that, where Star Wars has some older stuff and some newer stuff, and they're kind of clashing in the middle. And I think the Mandalorian expertly takes a little of both and makes something new.
Yeah,
And
I agree with that.
it's familiar, yet it's new, and it's exciting. I mean, I've been a fan of Star Wars since I was a kid, and I can see new fans watching this show, and they're just excited, like I was when I was a kid watching it for the first time.
It kind of makes it accessible without being exclusionary. It reminds people, oh yeah, there's something for everybody to come along with it. You know, like the people who saw the original trilogy and really loved it, like there's still shreds of that kind of woven through,
Yeah,
and there's nice continuation. What's funny to me, not funny, but probably a great thing, is that one of the unifying things that can happen in the world today still is something like a good old TV show. People talk about it, they can agree about it, they can disagree about it, but it actually gets people talking, and that's why for anything else like shows and TV and media really create a lot of conversational currency with people.
yeah, and I mean that's like what we're trying to do too. We're just trying to get people to talk to people, and this is a great vehicle for that. I mean, you don't have to. You can have a similar interest of this show, and then you're going to sit down and watch it, and then you might be talking with somebody about it, and then you might come up with some other conversation or some other tidbits of knowledge, or you might find out that, you know what, you have a lot in common with somebody else that you don't even realize.
And 20 years from now, when you're sharing it with your children, you go, you know, there was this time when Curiosity Continuum was just two dudes on a microphone. And
Right.
now all of a sudden they are this worldwide thing. Like, you listen to Curiosity Continuum when it was two dudes in a room? It's like,
Yeah.
yes, I did. So, anyway, explore some Baby Yoda / the child. See what you can come up with. Who is Baby Yoda to you? I don't mean to make it so subjective, but what does that character represent to you? Because depending on what age you are, you probably have a different perspective on it. You probably have a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, and you know what? We actually want to hear what you think. So we really want to hear you guys reach out on either social media or email us or go to our website, and there's a form there you can fill out, or you can just give us your email, because I think we might actually use our email list that we've been compiling to maybe talk some more about this in an email blast coming up.
And that is a teaser for new content coming soon.
So I think this is a great place to stop on, Brian. Put a comma.
I think so. Until next time, this is Brian
And this is Josh.
for Curiosity Continuum.